Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Alex. Good to see you again.
Hello again.
Indeed. Good to be back.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you reserved again some time for us.
Thank you for having me.
As we made a promise last week, is that we're going to this week talk a little bit more concrete initiatives that you are undertaking with Promatura.
Mhm.
Isn't there already today a clear, in your opinion, understanding on what the local size of the market potential is in terms of infrastructure as well as resource needs?
I think at a governmental, federal, municipality, council level, all the way up and down the levers of government, there's an understanding that are an aging population requiring additional care services. And sometimes the thinking doesn't go beyond acknowledging that. So it's like a globally understood issue, but to borrow the phrase, you have to think global but act local. And I think one of the issues we've got today is that there isn't enough focus on the localized understanding about what communities really want. If the only supply they have is domiciliary care for 15 minutes a day, maybe half an hour if they're lucky, just to maintain life, not really to make anyone happy or to combat loneliness, then you're doing the minimum. And the perspective on getting old is not great, whereas it should be celebrated. If you're getting older, you're living longer, there's the opportunity to enjoy life more without a lot of burdens that you have raising a family and building a career.
Carpe diem.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, we have problems where at an infrastructure and research planning level, it's only about understanding that people will stay in their homes as long as they can, and why wouldn't they? And when they can no longer cope, they will move to a facility that will provide nursing care, end-of-life care, obviously memory care where that's required, and that could be required at a younger age point. So are the people best served with the current level of infrastructure and research planning, or infrastructure and care planning? No, I don't think they're being served as well as they could be, because I think a lot of state actors, federal, local actors have stopped short of fully understanding what people want. And if the only supply is something which looks too severe, then who will take it? Who will really want it and embrace it? There will be few.
That's a very interesting point. So there's actually you have two realities. First, you have the hardcore demographic statistics where we actually know, because there is already sufficient population out there in Europe or the US that is in need of some kind of care and in some level of need of dependent. That is hard fact. Basically, we could. So I think already at local level, I think the challenge is translating that into concrete knowledge and what that represents at local level. And then the second is that how does my population would love to live their older age?
Yes.
Take into account all the different solutions that are out there.
Yeah.
And basically on the cultural and demographic preferences and social preferences that are out there. That's quite a complex undertaking.
Yeah, it is. And that's why so few organizations, companies, investors do it. It's hard to quantify. But it's about asking the right questions, isn't it? It's like in an interview. If you ask the right questions, then you'll unlock answers which you may not have thought of or not been considered. And I think the global local scenario is one that we see successful investors and operators take. We do look at a site that a private client gives us. They say, look, we have this site, we've got the land, we know we have to start somewhere because of the many complex issues in land acquisition, in planning, in zoning, the whole thing. whether it's a federal actor or a private capital investor. It starts with the land. But what the potential residents want, if they're going to move to that land or a facility on that land, can vary enormously. And this is where the European model and even across the world is ill-served by definitions. Yeah, definitions of what independent living means, assisted living means. Memory care is fairly self-explanatory, but even nursing care. Yeah.
I'm so happy you mentioned that. And for our audience, I'm sorry to perhaps for you that are you're so long active in this industry. But could you really summarize perhaps the core different segments basically that are out there? I know perhaps it will be exaggerated, but at least it gives a framework where we can then also continue to have our conversation, our next questions about.
Sure. I think we touched upon that in the first interview, Alex. We talked about independent living, assisted living. We talked about memory care. We talked about nursing care or continuing care of communities to end of life care. And these
and this perspective, I think it's also very important to mention that there is also, and will continue to be, a segment at home. You know, people that can live until almost they die at home, and there is no I should say
okay, sorry, I missed.
Because sometimes people see that as that, and I think what I hear is that sometimes see that the only option is we have to all move out, you know, and no, there is still a growing and continuous segment.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the other perspective on that is to look at 5 areas that we are looking at currently. We'll come to in a moment. If you're getting older in life, if you have some impacts upon your life, maybe there is a partner, a husband, wife who is ill and needs a bit of care, and you're their primary carer. If you're lonely because maybe your partner's passed away, if you're finding your house or property just too much to maintain because all property needs some maintenance, and if you're not having enough fun in life, you know, you should be happy. Everyone deserves to be happy. If you're not having the best time in your life, then you have 5 options. Yeah, you can stay in your own home and you can have some domiciliary care come in. Yeah, but you pay for what you get, and maybe it's not very much. The second is to maybe share a property with a relative or a friend, co-share, move in with an adult child. And then we've got 3 other categories of all having moved out of that home or not in the home of a relative. You might move into what's been called sheltered housing, which has no care, but maybe a warden or someone. They were typically built in the 1980s, particularly in the UK, when really in its infancy was understood the notion of retirement living. The next option is a growing segment called retirement villages, which is a sort of housing with care option, which can escalate into very high levels of care if required in many instances. And then the 5th option is a care home or a nursing home. Yeah. And really, those are the 5 primary options that anyone across Europe as they age is going to face. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for so much expliciting all those different types of segments, because sometimes there's confusion about it. So thanks for that. In all those segments that you just identified, where do you see that is the highest potential for Europe, in your opinion?
That's a really interesting point. When you say where is the highest potential for Europe, I think we have to start with the potential resident. Yeah, the potential resident either in their own home or in one of the other 3 ex-home scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And in understanding how those people want to live, and critically what they are prepared to pay for it, is the greatest opportunity, not only for those people to be truly happy with their lives, but also with insight, quantitative insight into that, the greatest opportunity for federal governments to get their policy right, for investors to back the right facilities, yeah, for operators to deliver only what is required and what is superfluous, yeah, for constructors to only build what people want at the right price. So the greatest opportunity has to center on the resident, the potential resident, and in unlocking what they want and need, I think you will find growth, particularly in the retirement village concept, because it's already been proven through research we've been party to in the UK. It's been proven to delay hospital admissions or to not require hospital admissions at all. It has allowed people to stay healthier, fitter, more able for longer, and never need a care home. You know, we were talking in another occasion about the average stay of a Swiss resident in a nursing home, 28, 32 months. That's way too long. You know, you don't need to be in a nursing home.
You can afford it.
If you're able to live well, yeah, for that amount of time, a nursing home is not your place of choice or need, potentially putting more pressure on the system, meaning other people cannot stay somewhere they genuinely need to. So that's telling me there's a gap in the market that's not being fulfilled. And it may be that a site has got multiple facilities on those sites, more of an independent living, assisted living, and then a separate care home with a lockdown wing for memory care, as is required. And they will not all mix together, because you will not find someone who is making a discretionary choice about how to live their life for their happiness, want to be so close to people who have more complex care and support needs.
Therefore, the qualitative research that you're conducting to really see what is in the local reality, the preference of the local seniors, and how do they see their lives in the future, and what type of services. Can you give a few examples of what would be the type of contextual data that you would be assembling?
Yeah, sure. So we typically get engaged by a client, an investor, developer, operator, and they normally say, look, here's a piece of land. Obviously, to find that land is an expensive, long-term undertaking. So their macro demographics have told them that there is an opportunity to provide living for people over 65 or 70 years of age. What they want to know from us is, what is the commercial model that's going to work best on that site? Yeah, the commercial model, of course, must take into account many different factors. It takes into account what size units people want to live in when they move out of their own home. That we call it right sizing, but they're normally downsizing also. So what size, how many bedrooms, what levels of fixtures, fitting and equipment do they require? What are the amenities, the services they require? And what's the size of that community? What's the tenure? Will they rent? Will they purchase? Will they pay an entrance fee model like in the United States? What's the architecture? What does that look like? What's the interior decor? So what we do is provide answers with numbers around what people will pay for. Do they value certain things at different price points? You bring that together in the whole, and you have a blueprint for informing every other aspect of the financial model, the architect's model, the construction quality. If you over specify it, you'll have under occupancy. If you under sell it, then the investor will not optimize their return, and they will not want to go and create more opportunities for servicing people to make them happy, as happiness is a key theme in this call, funnily enough. So I think that those are the key variables, and we test through something called conjoint analysis, up to 10 variables, which give very high levels of confidence in the data that comes back, to the 95% confidence level. Okay. So we turn the qualitative into the quantitative analysis, which can be baked into a financial director's P&L and cash flow modeling, because he's the guy to satisfy, as we know, in all of them.
And any thoughts particular on rent versus buying, especially moving forward?
Rent versus buying is a very good question. In the UK, you'll get a different answer that you will in Europe. I mean, in Berlin, people are used to renting. In London, if you're renting, it's just dead money, and you must buy. You must buy and own, because the capital return has been tremendous for many years. If you're older in life, if you have more complex needs, perhaps you know your lifespan is 3, 4, 5 years, then renting may of course be best. With purchase models in the UK, we see a DMF model, deferred management fee, which is helping to grow the market. People pay a fair price to move in to the property. They purchase it, mainly because that's people want to do. They don't recognize anything other than purchase as giving them sufficient tenure, closure. Yeah, and then they want to pay a reduced monthly management fee with a balloon payment in effect at the end in what's called a deferred management fee, which is a percentage of the resale price of the property. But across Europe as a whole, you've got to get local in what people want to do. I think there's good opportunity for the American model of an entrance fee, where you basically pay down the investors or the principal's debt on the facility, or it raises cheap finance for that, and then that is returned less an agreed sum for every year you've lived there, and that can be seen as equitable as well. It depends on the leasehold or legal construct arrangements in each country, and significantly what the local solicitor, the local lawyer is advising the family is a sound legal structure. You'll often get IFAs involved, independent financial advisors. They will have a view on a wasting asset, perhaps, if a rental situation is going to go on too long. So there's all this detail out there. It varies by country, it varies by legal ownership type, and you've got to get local to a site to understand what the local residents around that site want to do.
Yeah, which is very interesting. I sort of challenge these days. Huh? In we mentioned the liquidity in the previous interviews, which today is a big and actually the fight that's going on macroeconomically about preserving returns on investments, and sometimes that might interfere with the interests of the residents. No, very interesting. So that was very insightful, Peter. So how concretely now are you with the initiatives in deploying these surveys? Can you elaborate a little bit on that, Peter?
Yes, certainly. Typically, we run a lot of surveys for existing operators to understand, what people would like in a dedicated facility, but that's normally within constraints of a model that they want to put into the market and test. We will advise around that, but of course, the greater opportunity comes into going to the general populace with putting into context really their 5 choices, and that is something that we're doing. We're doing it in the general populace in the States, Canada, the UK, Portugal from next month, in fact, and Spain and others that will be rolling out. Basically, we have a rolling program this year to go and talk to people over 65 and engage with them in a survey which gets them thinking in about 50 or 60 or so questions, what their opportunities are to live and to receive care in later life, but also to be happy. Get them tell us what they're looking for so that we can share that at all levels, investors, governmental, tourism even. We're engaging with tourism groups because they need to remodel their resort situations in various countries for an aging population, and bring to those locales people that live there all year, not just part of the year. So there's economic impact there, and we're rolling that out, and we're really excited about doing that and sharing that to help the wider community understand how to make residents happy, how to make potential residents of a senior living, facility happy. If we crack that, Alex, then I'll tell you, we'll open up the doors for happiness, and also a lot of happy investors.
Yeah, and so and basically you would roll that out together with what kind of partners actually, in order to successfully be able to roll that out? What are the type of partners that you're looking for?
Okay,
Peter, in that?
good question. So in the UK, we are working with a leading trade association covering the industry. We haven't actually formally contracted on that, so I won't mention them by name. But
You're forgiven.
thank you. We're basically working with them. They're helping to co-fund how we get to those people. So we have to go and pay data providers to serve our survey online to this cohort of older people, to ask them, what do you think about your 5 life choices for care in later life? We are also connecting with the actors that are already communicating with this older cohort. So they're already providing financial services, they're providing social groups, they're providing interest groups, and care and support at an informal level in collectives to that older group of people. So online you would find them under, as I say, financial services, but also social networking groups. So we're sharing with them editorial. We're going to share the online survey, and they will connect us to that cohort. In other countries, in Southern Europe, in Spain and Portugal, we're connecting through tourism bodies. As I've mentioned, they want to understand how they can repurpose existing holiday resorts, large communities of busy places for 6, 7, 8, 9 months of the year if they're lucky, but then they're empty. They want to know how we can help unlock the key to all year round living. And then of course you've got golf courses, restaurants, you've got media channels, you've got everyone and anyone who's interested in this, undefiable huge boomer generation that is coming down the tracks, and they need to understand how to serve this group better.
Okay, and would municipalities or regions also fall in that category of type of clients of?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We are the creators of a survey. We are the catalysts for that, but we are looking to connect with any stakeholder in any of the ways you've just described to share the survey. We're happy to do that and to produce a report at our own expense, to share, to help inform and educate and direct infrastructure and resources in the most appropriate area. And of course, we hope to derive some private clients on the back of that. But we believe if we don't share that expertise that we've generated in the last 30 or so years, we won't find enough clients, because there won't be enough people that understand the macro picture in order to be able to deploy those resources.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I must admit, I'm very curious to see those results, especially all the difference between countries and regions that you're going to find out. That is
yeah.
So I would love to have you back as soon as you can share some results.
Yeah. Well, I think that's very kind of you. I think it'll be much later this year, because we've got a rolling program per country each month. Okay. And then of course the analysis across it all comes when you've got the final survey. But I'd be more than happy to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I really look forward to that. Peter, may I really thank you for these 3 interviews. I must say this was a pleasure going to all these different aspects with you and with a professional like yourselves and as well as your organization, and really already do an invitation, and perhaps even beyond the results, to have you regular on the challenge. This was really very interesting. And there are many points today that I still have in my head that I would love to discuss, but we'll pick it up at a later stage. But this was really a pleasure. So thank you so much for your time.
Alex, no, thank you for Senior Boulevard TV. Thank you for giving people like me and the other people you're interviewing an opportunity to share what we think to help us all succeed. So thank you very much for setting this up.
Very happy you appreciate it, Peter. So I look forward to connecting soon and having you soon on the channel again.
Thanks, Alex.
Have a good one, Peter.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.